Most of our stories about our compelling, corny, or slightly crazy relatives stay in the family. Libby Skala is a performer playwright who shares her stories, some of them. Libby brings her wonderful, willful grandmother back to life in a deeply personal celebration on stage, a one-woman play she calls Lilia. It is my pleasure to welcome Libby Skala to Studio 4 to tell us more.
Thank you, Fanny.
Lilia, your grandmother. What's your earliest memory of Lilia?
I remember crawling on the floor with her when I was about 3 years old, and she played the baby and I played the mommy, and I would feed her a bottle. It was all mimed, but I always had the sense she was young because she would play with me.
I like that, always acting. When did she first give you advice? Do you remember the first morsel of advice from Lilia?
I think she always gave me advice. I think she was always imparting her wisdom to me. And probably the first thing I remember, which is in the play, is when she advised me not to suck my thumb because it made my teeth grow crooked. And what I loved was that the way she advised this wasn't by just, I know all and you should do what I say because I said so, but she had smoked cigarettes, and she likened thumb sucking to cigarette smoking. So she said, if I can give up smoking cigarettes, you can give up sucking your thumb.
And you did? And she did.
Yes.
That's good. Tell me about her. Brief history of her. What a woman. Born in Austria.
Right. She was educated in in gymnasium, which I guess is the most exclusive school that they had at that time in the Austro-Hungarian Empire.
So little money in the family?
Her dad was a successful businessman. He was a wholesale salesman, and she described herself as upper middle class. She said, we never had a car. So I guess that was a sign of extreme wealth. But they had, I think, 2 or 3 servants, so that was middle class in those days. But then she went on to the University of Dresden and became...
in Germany?
In Germany, right. Because in Austria, they weren't accepting women in the University of Vienna for architects and engineers.
Women weren't allowed to become architects.
And I just found this out, that the reason why they were allowed at the time she went in Germany was because the First World War was going on, and they ran out of men. So they were forced to accept women just to keep the university going and to have the tuition money coming in.
So she gets the degree at Dresden, comes back to Austria, first female architect in Austria.
Yes.
How did she get into acting?
Well, she couldn't tell her parents that she wanted to be an actress because for them that was like prostitution. So she never mentioned it to them. But then she realized she should get married because then she wouldn't be under her parents' thumb anymore. So she took several handwriting samples of different men to an analyst, and the handwriting analyst said, this man, with him you'll be able to get what you want. He was very malleable. So I know it's rather sad by our standards, but it was a happy experience for her.
So this
because
was Eric.
That's Eric, right, my grandfather.
And he was Jewish?
He was, right. Yeah.
And when the war came, did somebody adopt, I'm trying to remember, somebody adopted your grandfather?
That's right.
And changed his name?
Yes, my grandmother's aunt, whose last name is Skala, adopted my grandfather, and so he had a Gentile name, which made it easier for them to escape. Or at least that was the thought behind it.
I'm sure your grandmother's parents said, why are you going? Why would you escape? Or the friends would say, why would you escape? You're not Jewish. Yet she was married to a Jewish man, and the Nazis were there.
Right, and she had 2 sons, my dad and my uncle, and I guess they were somewhat in danger as well.
Of course.
And it's funny because I asked one time my great aunt, Lilia's sister, why they escaped as well. And she said, are you kidding? as though you could live in that kind of oppressive society. It didn't matter whether you were Jewish or not. It was unthinkable to stay. So I thought that was very interesting.
Who came to New York first? Grandfather?
Grandfather came first, and grandmother with my dad and uncle followed a few months later.
Arrives Ellis Island, I'm guessing.
You know, I wish, because that would be so romantic. But I think Ellis Island was closed at that time for it had closed shortly before that for some kind of renovation or something. So they did not come into Ellis Island, but they did come into the New York Harbor. And she saw the Statue of Liberty, and she said, what it meant to us, freedom, freedom, the Statue of Liberty. So
no money. No English, but freedom.
Freedom, I guess, whatever the German word for freedom was.
So then her first job was in a zipper factory.
Yes, yes.
That wasn't all that much fun. I was probably a bit of a sweatshop.
Right. She did not like it one bit because she had a very strong sense of identity, and she felt she had a sense of God had put her in the world to do something important, and so she had such a strong conviction of this that it seemed a mockery of God almost that she would be sitting in the factory behind a machine.
Like, don't you know who I am? I don't do zippers.
Right.
Right? Can't you see her?
Right. Right, that's it.
How did she get out of the zipper factory and onto the stage?
She had met, after 2 weeks of being in the United States, an agent of a friend of hers who'd already immigrated to New York, and the agent had looked through her scrapbook. So they weren't able to speak the same language, but she'd brought all of her clippings from Max Reinhardt's theater in Austria, and they had toured together, and the agent remembered her, and 2 years later sent her a telegram to audition for her first Broadway show, which she got, which was Letters to Lucerne. And she was lifted out of the factory within those 2 years and onto Broadway, which quadrupled her salary.
Of course.
Yeah.
Where was grandfather?
He had started a cap manufacturing business in New York, and in between bouts of unemployment after the Broadway show, which closed after 2 weeks because the Second World War broke out, and it was a peace play. It was a play promoting world peace. And it's odd to me, but for some reason, it wasn't, the mentality of the country was we have to support this war.
War effort.
Yes, and so the play closed. But when she was unemployed again, she had to put tassels on caps for her husband, which she was not very pleased
Tassels
about.
on caps.
Yes.
See?
Ski hats and things.
Oh my.
Yeah.
To support the war effort. She wasn't riveting, but she may have had to do that too. But one thing she said, and I believe this is a quote, "I was not educated to be a refugee."
That's right. Yes.
Does she visit you when you perform this play about her life? Do you channel her in a way, or is it strictly make-believe?
I think of it as make-believe. People have said, you channel your grandmother, and I take that as a metaphor for just kind of the creative artistic process. I don't literally feel like a spirit comes down and visits me or anything like that.
She died in '94.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel her presence? I mean, she sounds like a formidable woman.
Yes.
A strong woman.
Yes.
An opinionated woman.
Yes.
Do you ever feel her around you?
Well, whenever I play her, I feel that, I mean, I feel like she didn't go anywhere. She's just right here, but I don't feel like it's a spirit. You know, it just feels like she made such an indelible impression on me that it's there.
Yeah.
She's there.
Me and Grandma on the stage. And flipping between the two parts. That takes talent. You, Libby, and your grandmother. Her film career, Lilies of the Field. She was nominated for Academy Award in Lilies of the Field with Sidney Poitier.
Right.
Did she know what an Academy Award was about?
No.
I know that sounds like a silly question.
I know, she didn't. She didn't. She didn't have a television at the time.